That's really sad news.
That's tragic. That is
just giving us there, because
Andy,
I've been in Motty's company many times over the years.
Great fun.
And just an absolute
diamond legend,
broadcasting legend, genuine. I don't use those words lightly. Paved the way for so many of the commentators and people involved in broadcasting big sporting events. He was absolutely at the very forefront of that, and that's really sad news today. That
terrible, absolutely terrible. I mean, it's actually taking the wind right from our sails. Joining us now for a reaction is our own talkSPORT commentator, Sam Matterface. Sam, very good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is just devastating news, Sam.
Yeah, it really is. It sort of knocks you, really, doesn't it? Because Motty was a part of a fabric of what we all do for so many, many years. He was an inspiration to me when I was growing up and wanting to be behind the mic, and he's been an incredible support actually to me over the course of the last few years in particular. I remember seeing him recently. The last time I saw him was actually in the Chelsea boardroom. I'd snuck in to get a cup of coffee at half time after coming off the gantry, and he was in there, as he was brilliant at doing. Actually, that was one of his great sort of facets. He was such a football man, in that he would spend so much time when he wasn't working going into boardrooms, going into to matches and making contacts with people, because he knew that was a way of getting the little bits of inside knowledge, the nuggets that he was so good at delivering on air. And I remember him coming up to me and he said, "Oh, how are you getting on? How are you getting on?" And we had a little chat, and he was being very sort of helpful, and he was giving great advice, as he always did. I was really lucky actually to do the documentaries that we did together at talkSPORT and work with him. But his career lasted so long, and he was doing all of the big games for such a long time. He was ubiquitous. His voice was ubiquitous with those huge moments, and it is very sad.
Sam, that Hereford Newcastle game.
Never forget it. Ronnie Radford, man. Do you know something, guys? Sam, Andy, you won't believe this. I actually showed my boys it the other night. I mean, his voice on that was just incredible when it was. It really,
absolutely
really
terrific.
was.
And one of a number of great moments. I think it's worth remembering. John was a journalist as well. He covered he was at Hillsborough the day of the disaster, and he had to turn from football commentator into news reporter that day. He commentated on a number of FA Cup finals, tens of 20, 30 FA Cup finals, probably more. I remember 1987, Clive Allen scoring after 2 minutes, and the joy in his voice when Clive got his 49th goal. And I remember the famous line when Wimbledon scored in the FA Cup final against Liverpool, and at the crazy gang and the culture club. I mean, it was absolutely a terrific line, delivered perfectly. That's what he did. He was brilliant. He was an upbeat, fun commentator with a joy in his voice.
Sam, it was a brilliant friend of the station as well, and I'm just thinking he must have inspired so many people, yourself and colleagues, and I'm just thinking you must be kind of proud yourself, because you were part of Motty's legacy, really.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know that he's...
Well, you followed. I mean, if it wasn't for guys like Motty, that set you off on your own road.
I mean, look, if it wasn't for guys like him, the art would have been completely different. I mean, he changed... He and Barry changed the way that the commentary was done. It was I think Motty was one of the first to use a co-commentator, and that was something that only came in sort of during the 80s. I mean, he was a trailblazer in terms of football commentary. I mean, he was absolutely terrific. He would tell you himself, and if you ever listen to the documentaries we did about his life and his commentaries, he will tell you that sometimes it was just moments that happened in football matches that propelled him into an area that saw him move quickly through the ranks of football commentary and held in such high esteem. It's some terrific moments. I think his favourite ever game, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here because it's only a couple of minutes ago that we found out about this sad news, but I think he said to me that a Brazil game in 1974 was one of the best games that he'd ever done. he was a massive fan of the Brazil team of 1982.
Yeah,
he enjoyed it, and he used to keep these. I went to his house only a couple of years ago, and he was showing me around all the scrapbooks that he kept. And what he did was every single Monday morning, he would have collected the papers from a Sunday, and he would cut out all of the major articles about each individual football match, and he would have all the team sheets, and he would stick them in a book. So every season, he would have one of these books of cuttings and articles that depicted every single top-flight match. He was a bit of an anorak, and he did have that sort of persona, the sheepskin coat, and he made a bit of a giggle out of it. He came up with some fun lines. I remember in the 2002 World Cup, breakfast with Batistuta and stuff like that. But he was, at the same time as being a bit of a fun character, he was also an incredibly serious journalist who took real pride in his job. He prepared brilliantly, and he made sure that he knew exactly what when he was talking from a position of authority. It was terrific, and it was a bit of a sucker punch when I found out this morning, to be honest with you.
It's a strange one, Sam, and you've put it over very, very well, if I may say, but a lot of people probably don't realise the amount of preparation and homework that is required by you boys at the top level. And I always remember, just to echo and back up what you kind of said there, I was very fortunate to work with Motti, and Andy's the same, and we knew Motti very well. But the amount of work and preparation, the preparation would get in equally as important as if it was, as you correctly say, his 82 Brazil team, or whether he was commentating the FA Cup Vase, or whether it be FA Vase Trophy. His preparation was always meticulous.
And some of the times that's where he would do even more. And some of the times that's where his love of the game would come through. I remember going. He was a regular at Barnet. You'll probably know that.
Yeah.
He would have more information about teams like that, where he'd gone and spent a couple of days. He might have been there. We'd be doing FA Cup tie on a Saturday. He might have well have gone on a Wednesday night and sat in the director's box and started chatting to the directors and the staff, and found out little nuggets of information and sprinkled them through his commentary. He was football. He was football. It lived and breathed and ran through his veins. He wanted to know everything about it. He wanted to be part of it, and he enjoyed it. I remember him coming to talkSPORT after he'd left the BBC, and he was so excited to get back behind the mic again. And I'm delighted that we gave him that opportunity to do that, and just to spend a bit of time in his in his company. The last thing he did was gave me one of his World Cup books, and he wrote a very special message in there, and I'll cherish that forever, because it's just really sad.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thanks very much.
Thank you, Sam.
I think you've actually spoke for us all there, mate, and beautifully said. It's a very, very sad day, and thanks for coming on to talk about your memories of one of the greats, really. A reminder, sadly, of the breaking news that legendary commentator John Motson has passed away at the age of 77. Now, Andy spoke about it earlier. We spoke about it. It's fantastic. One of his famous bits of commentary is Ronnie Radford's goal for Hereford against Newcastle in the FA Cup. Here's that moment and a bit of John speaking to Ronnie about the goal.
Radford again. Oh, what a goal! What a goal! Radford the scorer. Ronnie Radford. And the crowd are invading the pitch. And now it will take some time to clear the field. What a tremendous shot by Radford. He got that ball back and hit it from well outside the penalty area, and no goalkeeper in the world would have stopped that. It fairly flew into the top corner of McFall's net.
How did you feel as that ball, well, I won't say it bounced in the mud, but you know what I'm trying to say. How did you dig that shot out?
I just concentrated on getting good contact with the ball. I didn't aim for anywhere except the goals, and I just kept my head down, and I think I got my technique all right, and it just happened on the day. And
was it one of those when you hit it that you thought that's going in?
Actually, John, you don't see it on film, but the ball had got about halfway and I was starting my run.
Really?
Honestly. And I knew, that it were going in, because I just followed it all the way, and then as it were going, I were off. And
had you ever hit a better shot than that?
Not that, no. I hit similar goals, but not in them sort of situations, yeah. It was just one of them things that, you take Ken Mallender, he were in front of goal and the ball bobbled and it went over. Same with Alan Jones. It could have gone anywhere, but it just happened that I hit it and it just went in and then we were off.
Then the ground erupted.
That's it.
And we've all seen the pictures of the crowd coming onto the pitch, which of course this was purely celebration when they ran on the pitch. Can you recall what your own personal emotions were as you sort of saw it hit the net, and then as you turned away? Well, you were smothered by the other player.
Well, I just felt elated, John. I just couldn't believe it, like that, we were back in the game, and the kids and everybody, and that were absolutely brilliant.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.